Jets at noon with Tyson Hellebuyck and Jim Toth on 680 CJOB.
Welcome into Jets at noon. I'm Tyson Hellebuyck along with Jim Toth, and we're coming to you live from the Boston Pizza Studio for gourmet pizza and pasta. Bring the team to Boston Pizza. And we're also brought to you by Wash Method Car Wash on 690 St. Anne's Road and at washmethod.com. Make sure you head over wherever you get your podcast. Check out the podcast exclusive that we do every day as well. And Jim, we mentioned that there was trouble in paradise in the studio. Well, now that's ramped up to close to 11 because of this chair debacle that we're currently facing.
Well, there's a chair that McGarry likes in the morning because it's askew, because his back is askew, which doesn't make sense to me. You get the back fixed. But whatever, it's his show. And then I come in and I usually switch the two chairs.
Not today.
I mean, there's 9 chairs in here to work. But then, so I usually, and then now you're the host and the chair's gone. I got to do the wonky.
Hey, it's first come, first serve.
Now my back's askew. And Christian O'Malley somehow has this Starship Enterprise Captain Kirk chair brought in that nobody uses, but yet it's specifically designed for his length, I guess. I don't know.
It does look very sturdy.
It's no controversy. I'm
now.
happy you're here. It's a bold move a weekend to go, I'm going to take the good chair.
We got to head to some counseling, but we'll do that on our own time. We won't do that here on the air.
What happened to us, Jim? Everything, Jim.
But Jim, we've been talking a decent amount about the Jets' young guns over the last couple weeks, and we figured that it would be time to talk to someone who has a better pulse on the Moose themselves. And we haven't watched a ton of Moose hockey this past season, but that's why we're bringing in none other than Dave Minuk from the Illegal Curve. Dave, thanks for joining us. How's the summer going?
It's good, Tyson. It's been a nice summer, not long enough, but hockey season is around the corner. How are you guys doing this morning?
Not long enough, Dave. Ooh. Wow. That's a bold statement when there was no playoff hockey here, but there was for the Moose, of course. I just quickly before we get into all these Moose players and prospects and what you see from them, any of this ever happened at Illegal Curve, the chair controversy? You guys are all partners. You've been together forever. I would assume over the years at one point or the other, Ezzy or Drew would be like, that's my chair.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, now that we're, doing things in our own studios, it's a little bit easier because we don't have to worry about those sorts of shenanigans. But definitely when we were back in the radio station days, we definitely got into some hijinks where we would steal someone's chair if they were a little late to the studio. So I can empathize with that situation that you guys are describing.
That's the classic. Somebody's running late. They just walk in at showtime and there's no chair. They have to stand. That's a classic.
Kind of happened here.
Good to have you, my friend. I want to start with the goalies. Everybody's talking Connor Hellebuyck. Willie Connor, what is he going to be traded? Is he going to be here? How far away are they? Jeff Skinner's got a 2-year deal. I've liked everything I've read and heard from Thomas Milic and DeVincentis, and it goes deeper than that. But where are they in their development? Because a lot of people have been asking me this summer, couldn't one of them back up? And I'm like, well, I hear they're probably another year away, but they both had good seasons.
Yeah, I mean, I think the question is simply, could these guys be backups in the NHL? I suspect the answer is yes. But to me, the question goes deeper. It's what if your starter goes down? Are you trusting one of these two still relatively young guys in the net as your full-time starter? And that is where I hesitate, which is why I would say you're probably right in your assessment that both are at least a year away. I mean, look, Thomas Milic got a great opportunity with the injury to Connor Hellebuyck, where he had to get scoped, where he got his first NHL opportunity and played in a number of games. And he played pretty well. The Jets didn't necessarily play the best defense in front of him, which we've heard from the team acknowledge. But and Dom DiVincentis got recalled up to the team, never got into a game, obviously. But I just think that these guys need at least another year of pro. Dominic DiVincentis was excellent when given the opportunity in the net for the Moose when he kind of took over for Milic in their first-round series against Milwaukee. But I just look at them and I think to myself, would you trust them necessarily in that starter's role? Now, look, sometimes, if thrust into that opportunity, they may be able to thrive and handle it. But I would just be hesitant, especially given, Skinner's injury history, that if Hellebuyck does move on, are you ready to give one of these two guys to the starter's net? To me, I don't think it's quite there yet. I'd say another year in the AHL with those two platooning, and then you'll see which one is prepared to kind of rise to the next level next year.
But and that being said, I understand you can't look a year ahead, but on the right trajectory, like, do you think they're NHL caliber goalies that with more development and more time they could make the show?
Yeah, I definitely do. I mean, again, you get different. I mean, Thomas Milic is a little bit of an anomaly in that he's a bit of a smaller guy. He's not obviously a very big guy, but he's a battler and he's had success at every level of hockey he's ever played in. So there's that for him. And again, like I said, we saw flashes of it when given the chance, especially I think he went up against Carolina in his first game. Not an easy task and handled himself pretty well. And again, Dom DiVincentis has a lot of the tools. In fact, he's kind of similar to Connor Hellebuyck in that regard, in that big and boring style. So DiVincentis, I think both of them are going to get a shot, I think. And I'm not a goalie guru by any stretch, but I do think that they seem to have the tools. And that's why I think, another year of working with Drew McIntyre in the American Hockey League, kind of honing their skills, will get them ready to work with Wade Flaherty potentially at the next level.
And moving on from the goalies, Dave, one of the main complaints that people have when it comes to the Moose over the past 2 seasons is that they've really struggled to score. And only one guy has gotten 40 points over the past 2 seasons. Why have the Moose struggled to score so much at times these past couple seasons?
I mean, it's a great question because it doesn't make any sense, especially last year. The year before, I understood it because they had some young guys on the team and they didn't have a ton of veteran firepower. But then last year, they kind of went and offset that by bringing in good veterans who could, help pave the way for some of these young rookies. Because you were giving guys like Colby Barlow and Braden Yager their first full seasons of the pro hockey game. So you knew there were going to be some growth spurts where the team would struggle a little bit. But you had what I thought were really good veterans. Samuel Fagemo, who's the leading goal scorer in the American Hockey League for 5 seasons. You bring him in and you think, okay, well, he's gonna be able to light it up. And you thought that the Moose, he had 19 goals, 16 assists in 72 games. So, I mean, not exactly the numbers we were used to seeing from Samuel when he played for Ontario, in the Kings system. But to me, again, it was the power play. It just didn't have that oomph. And it didn't make a lot of sense because you had guys who could move the puck. You had guys who could score, and yet for whatever reason, a guy like Samuel Fagemo who had a blistering shot, it never really seemed to get going on the power play. Colby Barlow, again, he's a guy who's learning the pro game and went through some definitely some growing spurts last year, but he's got a blistering shot, never really used on the power play. So the power play definitely was a struggle for this team. The PK was better, but to me, it's weird because last year I would have said that they would have been a higher scoring team, and they weren't nearly as inept as they were the year prior, because I think 2 years ago they were the 31st scoring team in the American Hockey League. So they were better last year, but not nearly good enough.
And when it comes to Brad Lambert, I mean, he has a great first AHL season, and then we start to see that kind of not decline, but a step back, at least in development. Mm-hmm. What's his game sort of looked like over these past couple of years? Has he been working more on the board battle side of things, the defensive side of things, and maybe that's taken away a bit from his offensive game?
Well, it's definitely been a big point of emphasis. I mean, that's one of the things that we saw with the Jets when they were kind of transitioning from where they were to the President's Trophy contender or winner of that year, was that they were really focused on defensive structure. And that kind of continued with the Moose, where really became almost hyper-focused on defensive play. And Brad Lambert, I got to tell you, I think that the biggest thing for him, if you remember when he first came over and played with the Moose and then went to Seattle, they moved him from the wing to center. And his favorite position is playing up the middle. Now, the question was, would there be a position for him in that way with the Jets? And we saw when they moved him back to the wing that obviously the answer was no. But I think he preferred playing center. I think he preferred having the puck on his stick a little bit more. And especially as he gets older and he gets a little stronger, he gets kind of that man strength. Because, even though he's a bigger guy, he's not exactly super filled out. I think that kind of factored into his move over to the wing. But it's interesting. There was a definite decline. And obviously, he went down, and we heard about the not wanting to play in the American League and wanting to be in the NHL. And it wasn't a Winnipeg thing. And I will tell you one thing with Brad Lambert. It wasn't an effort thing, because whenever you watch him practice, he is one of the first guys on and he's one of the last guys off. He's not a lazy guy in any capacity. So I think this is a really important summer for him, but I think that, you've got to think about him, and especially now that almost all of these guys are no longer waiver exempt, the reality for them is that you've got to make a really big impact in training camp and have had a good summer, and then we'll see what you're able to do at the National Hockey League level. Because if Lambert does what I think he's capable of doing, I mean, could you imagine him on a line with Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor? Because he's got the speed, he's got the shot. Just a function of whether defensively he can be responsible enough. Not that those two necessarily win the Selkies every year, but that's going to be a responsibility for someone on their line.
It's so fascinating who might come and who might not, but I'm with you. This was the summer of opportunity. Like, if I was a Moose player, I'd be like, there are some openings here. And really, given the way the season went for the Jets, that if I have speed or if I don't, I'm going to work on that and see if I can bust the door open. So much is made off point totals, and I want to delve into what you said there about the focus on defensive game. How much was offense a concern last year for some of these players like Barlow and Lambert and everybody else compared to just rounding out into 200-foot players? Because if there's one thing that I think still holds true is they want you to work on – they know what you're good at. They want you to work on the things you're not good at.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair. I mean, if you look at Braden Yager, for example, I mean, he had – I think 30 points, right? 10 goals, 20 assists in 68 games. So again, didn't blow the door off of anyone from a points production perspective. But when you actually factor in his total game, and that was the most important thing when you talk to the coaching staff with the Moose, they said, like, here's a guy who, I mean, the transition, we take for granted. These kids are coming from junior hockey where they may be the best player on their team by a mile. And then they got to go into a league where you're playing against men, guys who have played pro hockey for a long time. It's not an easy transition. That jump from, junior to the pro game is significant, which is why oftentimes we're hearing now when you talk to guys who are real prospect experts, will say like kind of the college avenue is like adding double A, so you don't go from single to triple. You're kind of adding a double A element of things. And I think there's probably a truth to that because it allows guys to kind of gain that strength that they're lacking, that they have to make up for with their intelligence or other attributes. And so, yeah, I definitely think that a big focus for the Moose last year was on getting a lot of these. I mean, they had a lot of young guys. They're going to have a lot of young guys again this year. And it's about teaching them how to play the game properly. And it adds that to not cheating the game, not playing it, a 50-foot game or a 100-foot game. But I know it sounds cliche to say, but to play a 200-foot game where your coach can trust you. And we see it. We saw it in the playoffs. I mean, Braden Yager was on the ice when the Moose were on the power play late in game 2, where David Gustafson tips home the Yager goal, or Yager shot, and scores what turned out to be the game-winning goal and tied the series with Milwaukee. So these guys get a lot of trust. And that's the thing I think people need to focus on, was that it wasn't a function of these guys not being trusted by the coaching staff, and that's why the point totals were down. Point totals were down because the Moose didn't score a ton, but these guys were trusted late in games when you want young guys to be learning and developing from that perspective.
And what about some of the prospects that the Jets signed towards the end of last season? It was Lucas Wallin and then Garrett Brown. Could the Jets have found some diamonds in the rough there? We didn't get to see a ton of them at the end of the season, but what did you make about their limited action?
Yeah, so Garrett Brown's always been an interesting prospect, right? I mean, he was drafted the same year as Elias Salamonson. He's actually older than Salamonson, which is funny because we tend to think of Brown because he spent time in college as younger than Elias, but they actually are the same age. In fact, like I said, he's older. And he's a prospect that was very curious because whenever there's been training camps, it's always been some unfortunate situation. Like he was injured, he was dealing with something, so we didn't really get a chance to see him. This development camp might have been only the second time since he was drafted in 2022 that we've had a chance to see him. But he's a big stay-at-home right shot defenseman. And I got to tell you guys, great attitude. He came in last year, University of Denver, obviously. They win the national championship in the States, and he plays a big role. He's, again, guy who's on the ice late in the game, had a role on the game-tying goal, I think, for them. So he played a big role with Denver. He comes to Manitoba. No air about him. No, I don't want to be here. I want to be in the National Hockey League. He just has this great attitude of, I just want to learn. And so he gets, with the team and he's training with those guys and he gets his chance in the playoffs. And I thought he acquitted himself well. I thought he made a good first pass. And again, he's not I wouldn't say he's got a ton of toughness. He's not a Tyrell Bauer, let's put it that way, but he's big. He can hold his own defensively. And he's one of those players that I really think Jets fans don't necessarily pay a lot of attention to him if they didn't watch college hockey, but I think he's a player to watch. And he's a guy not a lot of people talk about. But I really think, not necessarily for next year, but he's a guy who's going to be on the radar, I think, for the Jets in the 27-28 season. But he's really an interesting prospect, and watching his development with the Moose this year is going to be fascinating. Lucas Wallin, of course, an undrafted college signee. He kind of comes across a little bit Parker Ford-esque, if you will. So I'm interested to watch him. We didn't get a ton of action with him. He only played in 6 regular season games. So he looked good. I mean, he looks like a responsible guy. He's a decent skater. He's a bigger guy. But I mean, again, I wouldn't anticipate anything for him in terms of the NHL for next year. He's more of a project, if you will.
Great stuff, as always, Dave. We'll have to have you back more often, especially once the Moose season gets underway and the Jets season, to get more of your insight. But overall, quickly, we only have about 20 seconds. One ranking gave the Jets the 28th ranked prospect pool. Another one from Daily Faceoff came out today, said they were 24th. Is that accurate in your mind?
I always laugh when I see those things, and you know, one of them ranks Salamonson as topping out as a third pairing guy, and I thought to myself, do you watch these players? And that's my concern with these guys. I really do. And look, we're hyper focused in this market. We watch the Jets, we watch the Moose. We know these guys a little bit inside and out. Then maybe you get a little bit of tunnel vision in terms of projecting them. But I also wonder about these guys who claim to watch 32 teams and all the prospects within those systems. I think, how in depth can your analysis truly be? So I always take any of those. I mean, I respect that they do the work, but it's very hard to truly be able to say with any sort of certainty that you can assess a prospect pool with any sort of, accuracy with what you just can't watch that many hockey games. It's impossible. Like I said, I'm drawn thin just watching 2 teams. I don't know how you could watch 32. So I find it a little difficult. I always take it with a grain of salt. I think the Jets prospect pool is solid. I mean, I don't think it's spectacular. Viggo Bjork obviously is a huge addition from a center perspective, and adding that. And then, of course, guys like Danny Zhilkin, I think, is a guy, Mark Morrison, the head coach, called him a top-line center in the American Hockey League. I expect him to take, actually, he's a guy not a lot of guys talk about, speed, defensively responsible. I could see him on as your 4th C with the Jets. And the one player I should mention, because he was injured last year, unfortunately for him, Jacob Julian. He is a 2023 draft pick of the Jets. Very Adam Lowry-esque. He's a guy who, in a couple of years, you might see that parallel. Right now, you might not, but I kind of projected him as an Adam Lowry type.
Really great stuff, Dave. Appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of your summer.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on.
That was Dave Minuk from Illegal Curve. We got to take a break, and we'll be right. He is one of the best. We'll be right back with more Jets at Noon right after this. Welcome back to Jets at Noon. Don't forget to call the Boston Pizza Jets Hockey Hotline, 204-780-6800. Coming for lunch every weekday to Boston Pizza. Get a delicious main side and ice cold drink for only $15, only at BP. We're also brought to you by Wash Method Car Wash on 690 St. Anne's Road and at washmethod.com. Jim, right before we get into our next topic here, I wanted to revisit a text that we had on Friday. And this was coming from George, and I missed it yesterday, but George, I didn't forget about you. But George was asking us to compare the 2017-2018 seasons to the President's Trophy seasons, and then I added in this past season so that we can kind of get a bit of a look into where the Jets stand defensively, and those being some of the Jets' best defensive seasons. So the Jets were 21st this past season in the league with 3.12 goals per game and 16th goals against per game and 16th for shots against. The team was tied for 19th with an .893 save percentage. During the 2017-2018 season, Jets were tied for 4th in save percentage, 5th for goals against, and 12th in shots against. And then during the President's Trophy season, they were 1st in the league when it comes to goals against per game. They actually ranked 13th in shots against. And this is crazy, Jim. They had a league-high save percentage by nearly 10 percentage points.
And that is by the number of shots you just mentioned. Sorry, say those stats again for the President's Trophy. So
in the President's Trophy season, they were 1st in goals against per game. They were 13th in shots against.
Shots against, yeah. 13th.
And then,
so that's where Connor Hellebuyck won the Hart.
Yeah, exactly.
13th in shots given up. And he wins the Hart because of the save percentage.
Yes, and the save percentage was just light years ahead of Tampa Bay was the next closest team, and they were 10 percentage points higher. So it just goes to show just how, yes, they were playing really solid defense, but Connor Hellebuyck and Eric Comrie had absolutely fantastic seasons.
So I know we're going to delve into this lineup here, but let me ask you this. So, like on the weekend, everywhere I went, and I went to, I had a really nice weekend with some buddies. We do it every year. It's been a long time going. And then we go to golf courses and we run into people and stuff. and we just golf and have a few cold ones and sit around a fire and talk. And what is Connor Hellebuyck's worry? And then would it not rub his teammates the wrong way if it's defense or youth or whatever? You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
I'm just, they're 2 years away. One season away from back-to-back Jennings trophies. And all I keep having in my head is, look, I think they're all friends. Don't get me wrong. I think they're going to be lifelong friends, this core group of hockey players. And 20 years from now, much like we're going to do this year, they're all going to reunite. And I think a lot of them will fish throughout their adult lives and everything like that. Don't get me wrong. But what is his worry right now? That the rest of the team sort of, and the pushback I got from this is they're like, well, Scheifele's not leaving and Connor just signed a new deal and blah, blah, blah. Connor Hellebuyck has 5 years left on his deal. And is he feeling that this team can't get back to at least a playoff-bound defensive style that this core has been accustomed to with some more speed put into it? Like, what is the disconnect here, and how is it going over with his teammates?
Well, I think there is a disconnect because he's probably thinking more of this is what's to come. Because it's the most recent season, it's a lot easier to say, hey, this is probably going to be more likely to happen than what happened 2 seasons ago. And, his concerns are still valid. Like, yes, they had Mario Ferraro, but the Jets have really struggled when it comes to net front coverage for quite a few seasons now. Not just this past season. It's been an issue for a couple seasons. And we saw it especially in the Colorado series when they took on the Avalanche. The Avalanche were just eating that up. They did a really good job pre-scouting, and they were attacking the middle of the ice from the high slot, and they were causing chaos in front.
Cam and I did the math on that. Like, the reason that thing was so lopsided is they doubled the high-scoring chances right in front of Connor Hellebuyck in that 5-game series.
Yeah.
Doubled from the regular season. So you basically you take one arm and one leg away from Connor Hellebuyck in that 5 games against Colorado 2 years ago. And people don't want to hear that, and people want to say that he's got to be better and all that, but I'm sorry, the proof is in the pudding. When you take away the high danger chances, those stats you've just read, when you take away the high danger chances and you don't allow as many shots, Connor Hellebuyck shines.
Yes.
When you go into a 5-game series and double that by giving up twice as many, it's real tough for him. But it's real tough for any goalie. So that's why, does he need some playoff resume? Of course he does. I'm not defending that he can't be better and shouldn't be better, but I'll defend to the nth degree that Colorado series. You were a 180 from 3 days prior when the regular season ended.
Yeah, I do think a lot of it
goaltender defending wise.
Right. I do think a lot of it has to come down to control as well, because this is the last season where he can control where he wants to go.
Well, I think it's a combination. And I can understand if some of his teammates are upset, and I can understand if some of his teammates go, I get it. He won the Medal of Freedom. Name me an athlete who's won that, let alone a hockey player. He has a rare opportunity to, if he's playing in the States, capitalize immensely on that. That might be something for any athlete, no matter how much term you have left on your deal. You might look back on 10 years from now and go, maybe I should have tried to get out of Winnipeg the last 5 years and capitalize on that.
It's definitely an interesting
And I'm
thought.
sorry, but that's the way I look at things from all angles. I don't begrudge that guy that. I'm a guy, you got a contract, you play it out. I have a real problem with you wanting to move while you're under contract. But then I listen to the details of it. And then I kind of soften, and sometimes I don't soften, and I go, too bad.
Yeah.
But this is one of those things where he's in such a rare American hockey player mode right now that I can understand him wanting to. My point to this is he's got to fly to Toronto, then New York to shoot a Ford commercial. Where if he's playing in Buffalo or San Jose, it's a day trip, not even an afternoon trip. Those are opportunities that hockey fans listening to this might go, too bad, tough luck. But no one's coming to Winnipeg to help him capitalize on being a star American athlete.
No,
during the season.
Definitely not. And to be fair, though, if you are in Connor Hellebuyck's shoes too, and you asked, we heard his comments after the season was over, and he was frustrated. He wanted there to be a clear indication that he wants this team to be better. And look,
and then we get back to what you just brought up. There was too much traffic. There was too many tip shots.
I will say, though, when it comes to what the moves...
That's a fair assessment from him going, look, I just don't... I think it might be a slow downhill, but I think we're going downhill.
Well, and when you look at the moves that the Jets made, like, look, I'll look at the Mario Ferraro signing and the Stuart Skinner signing, and I'll go, those are solid value adds. I'm not dismissing that.
Yeah.
Is that enough to make you a playoff team this year? I don't think it is, especially with how the Jets were playing last year.
So here's where I get bitter. He's not wrong when he said, I don't know why star players won't come here. I love it here. I don't know why they won't come. But he's also acknowledging that I'm giving up a little bit because they're not coming.
Yeah.
And so I want out.
Yeah. And
that's a tough pill to swallow, but that's also, I get what he's saying because he's right. He's around those star players that don't want to come here.
And I will still put some of the onus on Kevin Cheveldayoff, though, in all this when it comes to that. And yes, you can't get star players. You can't get guys like Dylan Larkin to come to the team. But what you can do is that there's lots and lots of players out there that don't have no trade clauses or don't have no movement clauses. And you have to be a little bit creative. Like we mentioned last year.
Maverick Bourque.
Exactly. That's the one where you look at it where it's like, why aren't you doing something like that? There's other players that go for draft picks only. Why aren't you trying to add more to this nucleus, especially when it comes to up front when the team struggled so much to score outside of the top line last year? And there was just no additions to the forward group. You're relying on, this is the second straight year where they're going to be relying on young guys to come in and hopefully fill that gap a little bit.
But who's the vet? Like Tarasenko's out there. Does he not want to come to Winnipeg?
I don't think Tarasenko moves the needle.
Well, neither do I. So why sign him? That's Gus Nyquist again, maybe.
I'm not saying those players. I'm saying go out there and be a little bit more aggressive. But we mentioned Maverick Bourque.
Maverick Bourque, I think they should have overpaid and got him.
Yeah, there's even that guy like Eli Tolvanen who's still available right now. He's got a great shot. He plays a really solid game as well. He could be a guy that you can add into this lineup. And if he doesn't surprise on the top six, you can move him down the lineup and he can still be a genuine positive add to this team. Yeah. I think there was a little bit too much sitting on their hands, if I'm being honest.
So that's what I bring up because I try to look at things, the full circle, all elements. So I get why he would want to be back in America. Now's the time. I don't believe in the team. Like, I think it's all this. I think it's a combination of all of it. But when you read those stats from the past 3 years, I kind of side with the Jets that there is a chance we can still do this over the next year or two. But then there's a chance we might not. But then him being able to control it this year compared to next year, I think is why this is happening now.
Yeah, I think that's very fair. Jim, let's take an earlier break here, and we'll break down what the potential lineup could look like for the Jets. I want to get your thoughts here because as things stand, there's not a lot of new faces being added, but there could be some guys who didn't have big roles last year have some bigger roles this year. But also, don't forget to call the Boston Pizza Hockey Hotline at 204-780-6800. Come in for lunch every weekday to Boston Pizza. Get a delicious main side and ice cold drink for only $15, only at BP. And we'll be right back with more Jets at Noon right after this.
Jets at Noon on 680 CJOB.
We're coming to you live from the Boston Pizza studio for gourmet pizza and pasta. Bring the team to Boston Pizza. Jim, I put together a little mock lineup for this season. Something that I would like to potentially see happen. And now we all know that this could potentially change. Some people are going to surprise at training camp. Some people are going to disappoint. But here's just a little mock idea of what I would like to see from the Jets. And so we start out with the top line. I'm going to break up the top line. I'd like to see Kyle Connor, Mark Scheifele, and Ishak Rosén as a top line heading into this season. I just think that there needs to be a little bit more separation. We know how good they are. You like
Rosén up there?
I do. I think either Rosén or Lambert.
I think Rosén or Lambert. So I don't know which one, but I'm leaning towards Lambert just because give him a shot. Like, give him his time. He's put his dues in. He asked for a trade.
Yeah. Hey, how about the top line to get rid of that trade request?
But this isn't the organization that can go,
I'll explain my reasoning.
Logan Stanley asked for a trade too, but go ahead. Like I like either one of those, but you're going with Rosén?
Yeah.
I'll go with Lambert.
All right. So then second line, Cole Perfetti, Vigo Bjork, and Gabe Vilardi. I just would like to have a guy with some size, some skill, and some guy that can win a ton of board battles for those two. And then also just be another trigger man. They're both more so playmakers than goal scorers. So to have that kind of more balanced attack in the top six, I think that would really benefit Vigo Bjork's game, especially in his rookie season.
Yeah. I like that second line, and I got the same second line.
Perfect.
And I think Lambert, Rosén, wherever Rosén is, can be flip-flopped Give him 6 games. If it's going good, you give him 6 more. If it's going good, you give him the rest. As long as it's going good. The minute it starts to falter, 3 or 4 games, give Roseanne a shot.
Totally. Third line, I'm going to put Brad Lambert on the third line with Adam Lowry and Nino Niederreiter. And the reason why I like that is because Brad Lambert needs the puck on his stick. That's when he's at his best. And we've seen him where he can wheel around and just be an absolute playmaker. And what do Adam Lowry and Nino Niederreiter do best in the offensive zone? They crash the net and get to the front. And I think that would present some opportunities for those guys to maybe get some backdoor tap-ins. Maybe they can also deflect some shots that we've seen in the Colorado series where Brad Lambert's able to wheel around the offensive zone, get around to that Raynette line area, and then have Lowry and Nino cause some havoc. And then also they would help him a lot when it comes to the board battles.
Yeah, and that's why I have Roseanne there maybe. Lowry, Nino, Roseanne, but I also I haven't sold myself on. I don't want Roseanne on the fourth line. Don't get me wrong, but I follow Lowry, Niederreiter could be.
Yes, totally.
Something. So I'm flip flopping still.
Yeah, I like to see a little bit of experimentation at the beginning, and then because we know that there's certain lines that do work.
Yeah,
let's see if there's things that don't necessarily that we don't know work yet, and let's see if they can work.
I really believe this is the season for the Ninos and the Domestikovs, and even the Roseannes and those at caliber. You get 5 games, and if it's not going well, or you're not producing, or you're slow, you're not getting a 6th game. And then 3 or 4 games, whoever does get the 6 to 8 game, and if that doesn't go well, then you might come back in. But if it goes well, work hard at practice.
Yep, absolutely. Fourth line, Cole Koepke, Morgan Barron, and Alex Iafallo. I just love that line would work so hard. That's exactly what you need out of your fourth line. And we've seen a little bit of pop from Morgan Barron, and Alex Iafallo's had some solid scoring seasons as well in his career. So I really like that fourth line.
Are you starting the season with Bjork at 2 and Barron at 4, or Barron at 2 and Bjork at 3?
Oh, Bjork at 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm starting that way too, but I know a lot of Jets Nation wants to see Barron at number 2. That was before they drafted Bjork, but I wonder if that's hopefully not, but through injury or something, you see that eventually.
Yep.
So you have Connor Scheifele, Roseanne, Perfetti, Bjork, Velarde, Nino Lowry,
and Lambert,
Cole Koepke, Morgan Barron, and Alex Iafallo.
Yes, with Vlad Namestnikov being your 13th forward.
See, now you have your unbridled enthusiasm and your whole life ahead of you, your youth. I feel like I'm being an old veteran guy again, but I'm going Connor Scheifele, Lambert, Perfetti, Bjork, Velarde. I like Nino, Lowry, and Roseanne, or Iafallo. I'm going to go Iafallo. Nino, Lowry, Iafallo, and I'm going to go Koepke, Barron, Roseanne, and let that speed of that fourth line cause some havoc. So I'm going Roseanne on the fourth line, and I'll go Iafallo on the third line with Lowry and Nino.
I just get a little worried that I just don't want to keep having the prospects come up on the fourth line playing 7 minutes a night. You know, like we saw that a little bit last year.
Why are you going with Nino over Namestnikov?
I just think Nino's a bigger body. I think he can provide more along the walls than Vlad Namestnikov. It's no shot at Vlad Namestnikov. I'm just worried.
Don't see him on the Namestnikov might have more speed right now.
Yeah, no, I do see that. That's kind of why I put Lambert on that line as well, where it's like you have 2 guys who aren't the fleetest of foot, if we're being totally honest, but then Lambert just adds that pop. And so he can really handle the zone entries for that line when they're not dumping, chasing it. And I think that just allows him to be more of the player that he wants to be, as opposed to kind of being the third wheel on the first line when he's a guy who really needs the puck on his stick.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what we got. And I said this before. I think there are all combinations out there. Look, I would be stunned if they put like a veteran-laden lineup here, where I mean with like Velarde or Iafallo and are they your top 6 with Bjork, and then Roseanne and some of these other guys are made to figure it out in the bottom with Lambert. I just don't think that, in my opinion, I don't think they're going that direction. I think this was a huge wake-up call about the speed of this team.
Absolutely.
How could it not be, right? Like, I'm not making a bold statement here. Honestly, Scott Arniel and his staff and Chevy are a lot smarter hockey people than I am. So if you and I feel this, they have to. And I just think it's the year where they sort of mix in the youth and they go with it. And I do think the veteran days of you, going 13 games without a point are over.
Yep, absolutely. And we saw just how great Carolina and Vegas looked. Like the difference between some of the Jets regular season games that we saw and then the playoff games was just night and day.
Vegas had such a balanced lineup. Like, I don't think their 12 were any better than Dallas, Colorado, but they just balance it out this way, right? Like, there's a young guy with an older guy and a mix of a grinder, and they have that balanced lineup. So we'll see.
Absolutely. Jim Toth will take you all the way to 2 o'clock. Special thanks to Jeff Fortier for making the show go and playing this absolute heater.
This is a banger.
It's an absolute
this
great
is on
song.
a high school warm-up tape in southern Alberta, and what CJOB needs is more cult.
So that does it for us today. We'll be back same time tomorrow. See ya.